topic a little bit. We have two amazing, esteemed guests today. Let me put on my glasses so I can read them. Kevin Stillwagon. Okay, very excited to have him today. He's a retired chiropractor and a retired airlines captain. Hi, how are you, Kevin? He is vice president of USFreedomFlyers.org, and he's going to tell us more about that. And he's passionate about educating everyone on how the immune system works, okay, which he's really, really knowledgeable about, especially since he's not vaccinated at all, and I'm a little jealous of that, okay? And preventing mandates that negatively impact the health and safety of airline crews and passengers. And he has educational videos all the time and a Substack, which we'll put in the comments below. But he's on Rumble and he's, again, on Substack. In addition to Kevin, we're also going to bring on a good friend of mine named Mike Brockie. Mike Brockie was in the United States Air Force since 1991 till 2011. He also owns an electrical company with his family here on Long Island in New York. And right now he's reaching us from New Mexico, so he's all over the place. He's an air show pilot, so some of you might have seen him over by Jones Beach. He's really pretty talented at that. And he also works for one of the airlines currently, so at the moment we're not going to name that airline, but he is working for the airlines. He's also an unvaccinated pilot, although both of them have seen what can happen with the vaccines. And so, Kevin, I'm going to kind of give you the floor first. Tell a little bit about how you came around, how you came to, do the things that you're doing and your experience and what people should know and like what the messages that you want to share. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. So as you already mentioned, I am a retired chiropractor and I've studied the immune system extensively, and I've even taught college level courses on immunity. And the problem that we're having today is that people don't understand how the immune system works. And unfortunately, they're being deceived. They're being deceived into injecting something into their bodies, thinking that it will provide them some protection against getting infected, protection against the disease spreading, and protection of severe disease symptoms. None of those things are possible. It's physically, biologically not possible. And we should have learned that lesson, because literally billions of people were subjected to a COVID shot that did not stop the infection, did not stop it from spreading. And many people that got the shot are now experiencing symptoms and neurological problems and vascular problems and early death. And all of these things are way worse than what could happen to you if you get a normal exposure to the SARS-CoV-2 virus and you treat it appropriately. So my message is, number one, do not ever get another one of these shots. Just don't do it, because it's going to place you in a very precarious situation. And I can get into the biology of why that is, but let me just give you one simple example right now. And I think everybody will understand this. When you either got a natural exposure, or even if you got injected with the exposure, which is the message to make an antigen, basically, your body responded by making an antibody, lots of them. That's the normal way your immune system works. And so what people are tricked into believing is that, oh my gosh, my antibody levels are low, I got to boost them back up, and they'll run out and get a booster shot. That is the most dangerous thing that a person could ever do. And the reason is because it's not the numbers of antibodies that are floating around in your bloodstream that's important. That is not important. What's important is the memory to be able to quickly rebuild those antibodies. And everybody's got that, whether you got exposed by a shot or whether you got exposed naturally. So here's the problem. As soon as you get a booster shot, it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. It's going to make your body start cranking out foreign proteins that your body already has antibodies against. So that's going to trigger your immune system to start cranking out antibodies from what are called memory B cells at about 20,000 antibodies per cell per second. And now you've got all of these antibodies that are racing through your body, grabbing onto the proteins that you just injected yourself with. And this kicks off what's called the complement cascade. It's extremely inflammatory. It damages a lot of tissues systemically, all through your body, all tissues, all organs. And this is why people can't figure out why they're getting sick after they get a booster shot.
Well,
Don't do it.
this is very interesting because, when we were kids, I mean, I think we're all like in the same age group here. But when we were kids, you get chickenpox,
Yeah.
and then there's a chickenpox vaccine. But I had chickenpox very badly when I was a kid. And then when I got older, did I get a vaccine or a booster? No. Okay. Because
Mhm.
he knew how to fight it. It's not going to get it again. And, just before you continue, Kevin, I just want to ask Mike for a moment to bring you into the conversation. What was the reason why you knew, after being in the Air Force and taking a million different vaccines, what made you be so smart and say, I don't want to take this vaccine? What was the trigger for you?
Well, back when I was in the Air Force, uh, this was in the 90s and the 2000s. We didn't have the information readily available to us. So we just trusted the government back then. If they told us to get 3 anthrax shots because we needed to do that to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, we just got our 3 anthrax shots. And some people got sick, some people don't, some people didn't. We just accepted what the government had to say for us. But then when COVID rolled around, things changed, obviously, because information was readily available. And we all knew that this was not thoroughly vetted. We were very skeptical. And then we're always skeptical about things that the government pushes out that they say that's good for us. There was so many red flags that were flying at the time. So that's why we knew that this wasn't the way for us to go for anybody in the Brocky family.
You know what, though, when you say information is readily available, what I was talking about in the monologue just is a simple example of information that's false. You have to find information on your own. You have to really dig down and find, people like Kevin, who is really doing the research and giving you the information, and then, do some checks and balances. But, the information is more readily available, but also a lot of misinformation is readily available. So how do we sift through that, Kevin? What do you suggest people do? Because people are overwhelmed and they just people like shortcuts. Like in my business, I have a yoga studio. And when I sell a membership, I say, do you want to do this or this? If I give them 10 different examples, they're like, let me think about it. I'll come back to you. People like to be led. They don't want to have to figure it all out. They don't have to do a lot of research. So give us some, how, besides following you,
Yeah.
what can people do? And if they did take the vaccine, also let's get into that too. What can they do to fix that? And mostly I want the both of you to explain how you got through working for the airlines, and not taking the vaccine, and how you can give some advice when this starts to happen again, because we know it's going to. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. So I advise people to become your own best doctor and do your own research. Don't trust your doctor. They cannot be trusted anymore. Most of them don't understand basic physiology of what happens to the body when you inject something into the bloodstream, particularly the mRNA platform. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it goes. They don't know what it does. They don't know the ramifications of doing that. I do, because I've researched it and I've taught it. And so I've produced some videos that are available on my Rumble channel that go through all of those mechanisms. So they're easy to understand. I try to use normal everyday language so that people can get it. And once you get it, the light bulb comes on, and then you realize that you've been duped and you're never going to allow yourself to be subjected to these shots called vaccines ever again. And it's got to be a mindset. It has to be something that you viscerally understand yourself. So that's what I urge people to do. As far as, how did I get through the airline experience without getting the shot? Well, Mike and I can talk about this, but there was something really, really strange that happened. The FAA is supposed to be the watchdog for aviation safety. And they've got guidelines, medical guidelines, that they absolutely have to follow. And one of those guidelines is you cannot put an experimental product into a pilot that's required to have a medical certificate to fly an aircraft, which, of course, all airline pilots are required to have that. You can't put an experimental product into a pilot. In fact, after any drug gets FDA approved, they have to wait a full year before pilots can start taking it. And the reason is because the safety trials that these drugs go through are never long enough to determine long-term adverse reactions that can show up. So they wait that full year for what's called post-marketing experience, so that they can collect all of the data that comes from the public through different reporting systems like the VAERS system, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and also there are other collection mechanisms for drugs that are collected by insurance companies. So they sift through all of that and they find out if there are any weird adverse reactions that could happen that would affect the ability of a pilot to be in command of an aircraft. If they find those, then that drug or medication or whatever it is put on a no-fly list. You can't take it and be in command of an aircraft. And people will say, well, this was a vaccine. That's not a drug. That's something different. Well, even if you call it a vaccine, and it definitely was not, it's gene therapy is what it is. It's a treatment. It's a drug treatment. Even if you called it a vaccine, they have rules there too. It's supposed to be FDA approved. These products were not FDA approved when they first rolled out. They were shot into pilots and into military when it was not FDA approved. And it was even worse in the military. And I think Mike can back me up on this, because the military has very strict rules about not injecting something into a troop that is not FDA approved. And so they pulled the wool over these military people and said that, well, it is FDA approved. It's called Comirnaty, and here's the proof. Well, the Comirnaty product wasn't made until a couple of years after this shot started going into troops. So they were literally mislabeling the product. They were putting a label called.
What about emergency use, though? Can you do that or no?
No.
Not allowed either. Okay,
No. It's got to be an FDA approved product. So. Okay. Yeah. So for me, personally, I would never take a shot of any kind. You already mentioned I've never had a shot of any kind, and I never will. But I was actually forced out of Delta early, 2 years and 3 months early, because I refused to wear a face mask. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even do that because I knew, number one, it does not stop the spread of illness. It can't do that. Number two, it actually makes upper respiratory infections worse, because people say, well, it's designed to trap droplets. Well, of course it does. Mm-hmm. And so now what you're doing is you're re-exposing yourself to rebreathing that crap all day long. And people that wear a mask for extended times have 15 times more experience of upper respiratory infections of any kind. I knew that going in, so I wasn't going to put one on. Right. Plus, they never tested it for safety. They're supposed to test anything that could affect a pilot's health for safety. They're supposed to look at reaction times. They're supposed to look at how altitude affects wearing a mask like this. And they were authorized under emergency use authorization also. It was not an FDA-approved medical device. So there were red flags just shooting up all over the place for me. I was not going to comply. I did not comply. And for that, they forced me out 2 years and 3 months earlier than my normal retirement date.
Well, now we'll talk about, if you sued them or anything like that, or if they paid you out, but that's not the topic for today. But Mike, before you continue, let's just hear Mike. Mike, what was your experience? And also you can mention about, if you want, your son, who also, you don't have to say his name or anything like that, but he also is in the Air Force, because it gives people, I think, hope that they can be in the military, they can work for the airlines, and they can refuse it, in some way, and still have a career. Although a lot of people did get fired, a lot of people did lose their jobs and lost their careers. But Mike, what was your experience? How did you get around this?
Well, I'll start with my son in the military. We were adamant that he not take the shot. And I think that he just wanted to take it just just to go with the flow and not highlight himself. But my wife and I convinced him, and he didn't take the shot. And eventually, they grounded him. He was a first assignment instructor pilot at Vance Air Force Base flying T-6s, and they grounded him for 6 months. And that's just the way it was. I wrote to every elected official I could in the state of Oklahoma, and they're completely worthless. I wanted to get the wing commander arrested, but
Good for you.
because he was not compliant. Once they lifted the ban, my son should have been flying right away, and nobody obviously cared what I had to say. So I
But
so
he's
that
doing
that
well
so,
now, right?
so
He's
that
doing well.
letter writing campaign didn't work very well.
Doesn't mean don't try it.
I
Keep
I
doing it
have
though.
zero respect for all the commanders that in the Air Force, all the guys who are O5s and above who are in command positions who enforce that vaccine mandate. They should not be in the military anymore, especially the general officers. So if you're a general officer, and I have a lot of friends, and you're still in the military and you're a part of this, you should be out. And and there should be some sort of punishment, like losing your pensions and your
And
health
I
care.
wonder if they took it themselves because we do know that Congress was exempt from taking
And,
the vaccine.
I would say that those guys probably took
Probably
it. They
did.
drank the Kool-Aid and took it.
Right.
Okay. And they just did, they, in their minds, they were following a lawful order, even though it was killing their troops, and they were just ignoring all the data. So, I mean, that's a whole separate subject that
Absolutely.
that's not popular with people.
And what about your
Okay.
experience? What about you and
Um,
your airline?
when I worked for a major airline, that if I said the name, everybody would know it. Um, and that was a very precarious times. I remember. I wasn't a good mask wearer, so I mean, I just wore my mask because I knew that I shouldn't be breathing in what I was exhaling. So my mask was always such that I was never doing that, and nobody gave me a hard time. I mean, I just give them a look. The folks that would say something, and they just would, and they wouldn't say anything. So I never really wore a mask. I just had, they call it the chin.
Yeah.
I forget what
I
they
wear mine in my head sometimes.
right on
Yeah.
my chin.
Yeah. The
Anyway,
chin strap. Yeah.
the chin strap. My company, believe it or not, of all the major airlines, did an excellent job. Okay, and I know they love that plug, but I'm not going to mention their names. They did a very good job with the way they handled it. Because if you guys remember, the president came down and mandated that all of these companies had to have all their employees had to have shots because they were involved doing government business. And you ask what government business were they doing? Well, they were hauling cargo for the United States government,
Mhm.
and they couldn't lose that revenue line. Um, so when they came out with that mandate, of course, every major airline had to say, okay, everybody's got to get the shot. Okay. And the problem is our union. Our union was absolutely miserable at the time. All leading up to this, the union gave hope to all the pilots to say, hey, this getting the shot is between you and your doctors. We're going to back you guys up every way. And then when the mandate finally hit the streets, the union completely caved. And that's
Mhm.
where the problem started. Because for me, I had I knew I wasn't going to get the shot, and I had another source of revenue that I could fall back on. But there was a lot of people who didn't. They were pilots, and that's it. They weren't gonna. They had to continue to work,
Mhm.
and there was about a 2 week time frame there where those guys they went and got the shot. And they didn't want to get it, and they felt
Mhm.
horrible about that
Let's just talk
situation.
about that a second because everybody is my body, my choice, my body, my choice. So for a job, is it fair for somebody to make you put something into your body that you can never take out? You can't get it out. So that's what they're basically doing. They're saying that you don't have a choice. But I'm sure you both have some stories
Well,
of
you had
how
a choice. The choice was that
to
you
leave.
just didn't have to work for that company anymore.
Right, right.
I mean,
But
so that was the choice. Give up your job.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So what
so
about some situations that you had in the air? Did you two experience anybody that was a pilot that had some, I mean, again, you don't have to say the name of the person or what airline it was on, but did you have an experience where somebody did have an episode, or did you hear firsthand about an episode? Can you share some
I didn't
testimony?
have any folks who had an adverse reaction inside the flight deck.
Thank God.
Uh,
Okay. But
Thank God. I
but there
just
are some
had,
people that
it was just the whole, the, the problem was that they didn't want to take that shot. And because the union wasn't giving them that backing, they felt that they were put into a corner. Now, my airline, thankfully, after about 2 weeks of the mandate said, you know what? They started off with get your shot or get out. And then their message slowly transitioned to get your shot or fill out a waiver. And then it transitioned to get your waiver, or you need to get the shot. And then eventually it was you didn't get the shot, so fill out your waiver. Right.
Mhm.
So I thought they handled it very, very, very well. They played the game with the government very well, with the administration at the time. The problem was the union didn't give that backing. So while that game was being played, there was a bunch of pilots who got a shot that they didn't want to get. And of course, the government does everything to hide any adverse reaction data. So who really knows what happened? I know my FAA medical exam was yelling and screaming about this and almost left because he knew that this was wrong. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that at least there was one medical examiner out there that was yelling and screaming about it. And, I already mentioned that the FAA is supposed to be the safety watchdog. Number one, they should have stopped this from happening, ground zero. So there should be what's called an aviation safety subcommittee hearing in DC, and I'll be happy to go testify. I want to know exactly who made the decision to allow this shot to go into pilots, because you are a murderer. I'm not kidding. I'll call it what it is. There were pilots that got this shot that died that were perfectly healthy. And I've got the data to back this up. Cordelia, I think you have a chart. Maybe you can pull that up. It's slide number 1 that I had sent you. But here it is. So I did my own research on this. This is data that was pulled out of what's called the Airline Pilots Association magazine, the ALPA magazine. Every month they report pilot deaths that have occurred in the past or recently. It's not cumulative. So in order to compile this data, I had to go back and look at every single magazine. And I did that starting in 2019, January, so I'd have a good comparison to go by. And I put every death that had occurred. I looked up the obituary, confirmed that they were a pilot for the airline that was reporting their death in the magazine, found their date of birth and their date of death, calculated the age, easy to do. And I was looking for any kind of a safety signal. And I definitely found one. And you can clearly see that starting in early 2021, right after the shot rolled out, and it started going into pilots in December of 2020, there was a 40% increase in the incidence of pilots dying prior to the normal retirement age of 65. This had never happened before. It was a 40% increase, and clearly it's still elevated. And even in this year, 2025, it's well on the way to exceeding those pre-COVID shot numbers. So yeah, this is a safety signal. This is not a good thing. Also, disabilities tripled since 2021. I verified that with the data from the unions that Mike was talking about. So they keep data on disabilities because a lot of these companies require on the union dues for money. And so, yeah, they keep tabs on it, and it tripled since 2021, and it's still elevated. That's a problem. You look at near misses that were happening at just one airport, the DCA airport. That's the Ronald Reagan airport there, right on the Potomac River, where that horrible crash happened between the Army helicopter and the passenger jet. So if you look at the data, prior to 2021, there was about one near miss per year at that airport on the average. But after 2021, it elevated to about 28 near misses per year. That's unacceptable. And even Brian Bedford, who is the new FAA administrator, admitted that, yeah, these numbers came directly from the National Transportation Safety Board, and it's not acceptable. And they need to figure out exactly what's going on. I can tell you what's going on. It was the shot, because this shot definitely has vascular impacts, cardiovascular impacts, neurological impacts. It's giving pilots heart attacks. It's giving them chest pain. It's giving them brain fog, inability to concentrate. They're fatiguing early. The same thing is happening with air traffic controllers. This is a huge problem. So how do we fix it? We can go to the next slide. If you have that next slide there. Yeah, so number one, I mentioned we need to have an aviation safety subcommittee hearing. Number two, we need to enter mRNA shot history into the medical records and prohibit all future mRNA shots. Just absolutely ban them. They have to take that step. And I think Mike can back me up on this. When you go get your medical now, they don't care if you got the COVID shot or not. That's a problem, because one of the adverse reactions is myocarditis. And if you get myocarditis, you cannot fly an airplane of any size. So yeah, this is a problem. And so we need to start a pilot risk stratification program. This would be simple blood tests that can be done on pilots to determine if they've got clotting issues that could predispose them to having either a cardiovascular incident or maybe a neurovascular incident like a stroke or a seizure. And those are extremely dangerous. And Mike and I can talk about the implications of having a seizure in the cockpit. That is not a good thing. And if it happens at a bad time, we're going to lose control of the aircraft and people are going to die. Another thing that we need to do is have a way for pilots to self-report possible problems that they're having. They're afraid to do that now because Michael confirmed this. If they come forward right now, the way the rules are, they're going to lose their career. That's not an acceptable thing for that pilot. So they're just not going to do it. So we have got to find a way to protect these pilots' careers. This is going to take government oversight. This is not going to be an easy job, but it's something that absolutely has to be done. And lastly, we need to reinstate what's called the Pilot Incapacitation Data Registry. Mike had mentioned that, they're supposed to keep track of this stuff. Well, they did in this database kept at the FAA, but they canceled the program in 2022 after they stopped even entering data in 2021. Why did they do that? They're hiding something. Flat out. They're hiding something.
Wow. Wow. So your company that you started, the usfreedomflyers.org, can people get this information there? And, do you guide them is there like anything
Yeah.
they can do if they do
Yeah.
have questions about being vaccinated and they're a pilot now? I mean, is there confidentiality? Like tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually did not start the U.S. Freedom Flyers. That was started by a pilot named Josh Yoder and some of his fellow pilots at a major airline. And I came on board a couple of years after it started as a medical advisor. And you can go to usfreedomflyers.org, and they do have a tab there that people can look for clinics or doctors that can help them with what's called long vax injuries, pilots that have been vaccinated and are having problems. There are protocols that we can put pilots on so that they can get some help. These are very simple protocols that you can do yourself. They involve changing diet. They also involve fasting. It also involves using techniques that involve red light therapy, also hyperbaric oxygen therapy. There are also supplements that we advise people using that can actually either slow down or degrade the protein that the mRNA is coding for. And the problem with that protein production is if you got the shot, you have the potential that message to make the protein is still in your body and it's still making proteins even if you got the shot 4 years ago. It could still be producing that protein. That's a dangerous, dangerous thing. And we need to find some way to reverse that. So that's kind of what we're doing right now with some of our protocols.
Is there a shortage now in pilots? Do the both of you know because of all this that's happened? And also, have the licensing to be a pilot changed at all? Is it easier? Is it more difficult? Is it the same? You know, because I know, like, let's say that cholesterol. Okay, it used to be that you could have 300, cholesterol, and you were fine. Now, if you don't have lower than 150, oh my gosh, you need to change your diet and everything. And we know that that's a far. So what's going on right now? I mean, are we looking to get more people to be pilots and, give some advice on this job career, and that they shouldn't be scared of it because you guys have gotten, through it without getting vaccinated and there is hope. So what do you think about that? Mike?
Well, they talked about that extensively at the Senate confirmation hearing for the new FAA administrator.
Okay.
And he assured them that they would not reduce the qualifications for becoming an airline pilot, and that's a good thing. We don't want to be reducing those type of requirements. However, there have been some adjustments made to the medical side, and those are very concerning. And one of them is something to do with EKGs, extension of what's called the PR interval, which is a delay time. I don't want to get too technical,
Yeah,
but
that's
uh,
interesting. My FAA medical examiner had complained about that
yeah,
with the way they were looking at the EKG. They were doing it such that they wouldn't expose issues that folks were having as a result of the COVID shot.
yeah, exactly. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, because I already mentioned that one of the major adverse reactions of the mRNA injection is subclinical myocarditis. That means that you could have the myocarditis and not even know it. Your
Right.
first indication that you've got a problem is going to be sudden heart failure. And it's not a heart attack. People think, oh, you had a heart attack. No, that's not what this is. It's something completely different. When you have a heart attack, you're getting a blockage of coronary arteries, and you can generally feel that and know it's coming because you'll get occasional chest pains radiating into your neck or into your arm. You'll also find that yourself getting winded going upstairs. I mean, there are warning signs, but for myocarditis, there are no warning signs. What's happening is you're having cell death in what's called the cardiomyocytes, the actual muscles of the heart that beat in unison. And when you've got myocarditis, some of those cells start dying off. And when they do, they're not replaced with new ones. There's scar tissue in there that interferes with the normal electrical flow of the heart. And then you can find yourself suddenly in a position where you're either getting what's called atrial fibrillation or ventricular fibrillation, where the heart is not pumping in unison. It's basically sitting there just twitching.
Wow.
And if you don't get that heart restarted with an external defibrillator, which are required to be on all aircraft now, I wonder why.
Easy to use
If
too.
if you don't get that heart restarted within a couple of minutes, you will die.
Yeah.
And this actually happened to a captain friend of mine. His name is Bob Snow. He was a captain for American Airlines, flying an Airbus A321, which is the aircraft that I flew. I'm very familiar with it. He had just landed with a passenger load of airplanes, just pulled into the gate, and was packing his flight kit to go to his next flight. Stood up in the cockpit and just passed out. Boom, done. His
Wow.
heart had stopped. They drug him out onto the jetway, and by the grace of God, there just happened to be an emergency medical team at the very next gate. They were alerted and came over and got his heart restarted with an external defibrillator. If this hadn't happened, he would have been dead.
Wow.
He was very lucky that day. He's not the only one that this has happened to, by
No.
the way.
No,
It's happened.
I just want to stop you 1 second. Kevin, we're talking about the commercial airlines, but there are so many people that have their own planes too. There are a lot
Yeah.
of private, and these people are vaccinated too, and they're out there flying, and it makes the sky so dangerous. So again, is there more, procedures that are trying to be put in place by your organization that you're working with, or, what do you suggest and what should people be aware of?
Well, people ask me all the time, is flying still safe? It is still safe because we've got two pilots in the cockpit. Okay. The chances of both pilots becoming incapacitated at the same time is infinitesimally small. It's probably never going to happen, but it could.
You could.
I mean, look at that. Look at that jet that took off out of India, where both engines failed at the same time. It's never
Right.
supposed to happen, but it did.
Right.
They're trying to figure out why. So yeah, it could happen, but that's not the major threat. The major threat, and I alluded to this earlier, is going to be what's called a full body seizure. And when this happens in the cockpit, you've got a real problem on your hands because if that seizure puts in a full rudder input at a bad time, and the leg is locked, the seat is also locked. I mean, the seats in aircraft, and Mike will back me up on this, they're pretty hard to move around because they want them to be fixed in their position for takeoff and landing. They don't move easily, right, Mike? I mean, it takes some effort to move those seats. So if you got a pilot that's putting a rudder input, and you cannot overcome that by trying to push the other rudder pedal from the other seat. It's just not going to work. The rudder pedals are connected with cables. You're not going to be strong enough to do it. So you've got to relinquish your hands from the controls and try to get that seat moved back and get the pilot off the rudder pedals, or you're going to lose control of the aircraft. This has happened in the past.
Okay.
And I've got one that I pulled out of FAA records that still do exist. I said that they terminated the incapacitation data registry, and they did, but they still keep a database. It's redacted, it's not full, but I was able to pull one out of there. This just happened in 2022. It was a jet that was landing at the Charlotte airport. The captain was flying. He did have a seizure descending on the approach between 4,000 feet and 3,000 feet. He went into a full body seizure, pressed the rudder pedal, they lost control of the aircraft. You can read the whole narrative of the first officer describing how he had to take his hands off the controls. Nothing was flying the airplane. It was losing altitude. It was entering a turn. And he had to get that pilot pulled off the controls. And this was at, between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. If that happened between 300 and 400 feet,
Wow.
what do you think, Mike?
It would be difficult. And plus, the planes are not stressed to handle those full rudder inputs like that. Essentially,
No,
you only use the rudders for taxiing and for crosswind landings on the
exactly,
airliners.
Maybe
exactly.
some like it's like a fire drill, but maybe some drills have to be done, to plan for things like this, or
Well,
maybe.
they already do that.
Okay.
We're already trained for it, for the incapacitation of the other pilot, and they do it almost every 9 months in the simulator because they know it does happen. So yeah, I mean, I can remember having to do that in the simulator where I was a first officer at the time, and they told the captain that at some point during this check ride, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, and you're just going to pass out. And so, you know, they train us for that. You have to pull the seat back, get him out of the seat, and try to get another pilot up there to help you. I mean, it's a big deal, right, Mike? You were trained for that, weren't you?
We don't actually practice that in the simulator. I know they have it written in our procedures, but
Yeah.
it would be pure chaos.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It is pure chaos when it happens, and that does decrease flight safety without a doubt. There are other signals that we've got a problem, and I already mentioned that, and that's aircraft incursions, aircraft getting too close to each other. This just happened the other day with a Delta wide body landing in Boston, an A350. I mean, that's got a couple hundred passengers on it. And they came very close to hitting another aircraft at that airport
You know what?
as they were in the landing phase. Yeah.
This past weekend, I went to Florida to see my mother, and I flew, both ways, major delays, and of course they blamed it on the shutdown because the air traffic controls are, I guess maybe they're not showing up for work, or
Yeah.
maybe whatever. But along those lines, if an air traffic control person took the vaccine and has what you called before, like brain fog or different things,
Hmm.
that could also cause major, major problems. I don't know how many people are in those towers at one time. I don't know if there's somebody backing up somebody else if they don't, or what's going on. But those jobs are very, very high stress, and
Hmm.
those people need to be on their best,
They
alert.
are there. Yeah, they are high stress jobs, and the retirement age for air traffic controllers is 55.
Oh,
Not,
wow.
not 65 like pilots. So yeah, it's a stressful situation. And you're right. With the government shutdown, they're not showing up for work and they're not properly staffed. And yeah, this is creating a significant problem with backlogs in flights, backups at airports, and the controller is going to get fatigued. This is not good.
But the both
None of it is
still
good.
love both of you still love to fly, correct? Both of you love flying, right? So you
Mhm.
definitely would recommend people to go into this industry, correct? Yes?
As long as you don't have to get a shot, yeah.
That's right.
And we've still got a problem with that. And I got to bring this out right now. There's still two airlines, Delta and United, that still to this day require all of their pilots to get a yellow fever shot before you can even get an interview.
Wow.
Wow.
That is stupid and dangerous. Because I'm telling you right now, the yellow fever vaccine, they call it, is full of yellow fever viruses.
Right.
It's a live viral vaccine. And this is a message to parents right now. There are other live viral vaccines that go into your kids. It's called the measles shot, rubella shot, and the chickenpox shot, the MMR shot. And those are live viruses too. And you have absolutely no idea how many are in there. You don't know how strong they are, how potent they are. You don't know where the tip of the needle is when they push that plunger.
Mhm.
That stuff could go directly into the vascular system and create an almost instantaneous adverse reaction. This is not good, parents.
No,
Do not put that stuff into your kids.
especially
Don't do it.
finding those things. When you think about it, I think the concept of a vaccine, the actual concept of it, like when we talked about if you get the chicken pox and then you build up immunity, then you're not going to get that disease again because your body's going to fight it. It knows to. So the concept of a vaccine is brilliant. The problem is that they've used us as guinea pigs, and it's not just the attenuated virus that they put in there, and they don't know how much to put in there based on body weight, based on other things that you've had. It's too, subjective. It's not enough that you could just give, oh, this vaccine is universal, for everyone in this weight. You can't do it. And so,
Mhm.
again, the idea of the vaccine is really smart. And that's why people go to their doctors and they say, okay, sure, here's my arm. I know there's, right now we're fighting against some things. And on TV shows, like people watch TV shows, a medical show, oh, you need the flu vaccine, you need this vaccine, and they don't even give you the side effects because you're watching a TV show. And then the attorneys for those TV shows say, well, it's a fictional show. So
Mhm.
say, well, if it's a fictional show, then make up a fictional drug. Why do you bring up a drug that you're trying to recommend to people? It's like brainwashing them. It's
Yeah.
okay. So people get very complacent, and it comes like full circle here to what you've been doing here, trying to educate. And I know that's why you wanted to come onto this show today, Kevin,
Yeah.
because you want to really educate and tell people, do your own research. So again, please talk about how people can get more information, how they can do their own research without being frustrated and finding the wrong information. So where do you suggest people go when they want to look up on their own?
Uh, well, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. There are books out there that are available that are recently written, that are fairly easy to read. One was just put out there by Dr. Peter McCullough and his writing partner named John Leake. It talks about how vaccinology has basically become a religion, and it has, because it's a belief system. What other drug or thing do you do, and people say, well, do you believe in that? It's a vaccine. It's something that's got a religious connotation to it. Another one was written by attorney Aaron Siri,
Yeah.
called Vaccines, Amen. And he's coming about it from the same angle as a religion. And basically it is, but it's a satanic deception, because they're convincing you that, look, all you got to do is put this in you and it will protect you. And you just said it yourself, Jamie. You said the idea is brilliant. It's not. It is not brilliant,
Mhm.
because it does not work.
Right.
Full stop. It doesn't work. The only way that you can become immunized is to have whatever the thing is, the invading organism. It has to come through the body in a normal way, and that is through the epithelial barrier. That way, your immune system gets to experience the whole thing, all of it, and you get special antibodies that are secreted back out into the mucosal layer that will protect you from becoming infected. You cannot get that if you inject something into the body. It's impossible. All you get is serum antibodies, and they react to the infection. And unfortunately, they're not injecting the whole organism. They're injecting a part of it, a small piece of it that mutates. So the antibodies that you get aren't going to be protective anyway. This is just basic science.
Yeah.
Basic
And
science.
we've been
Doesn't work.
fooled. We've been fooled. All these years we've been fooled, and it's really,
We
really
have
scary.
been fooled, and that's my job, is to wake people up.
Yes.
Wake
Yes.
them up.
And that's what, and Todd,
All of these diseases are preventable, and they are treatable.
yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all treatable.
You know, I remember watching this show, or a show on TV where they made up a vaccine with the one person blood who didn't get the sickness. I don't know if that could work either. I don't know, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but there has to be a better way.
There
And
is, and you just nailed it. You just nailed it. And it's called antibodies that were developed in a person that is convalesced. That means they experienced the whole thing. And that's why, if you get bit by a rattlesnake, for example, and you go to the hospital, what do they give you? They give you anti-venom. What is that? That is antibodies that were created in a person or an animal that experienced the rattlesnake venom, all of it in its entirety, not just a little tiny piece of it.
We'll have
And
to get away from this. This is where we got to get back to. But we're
Yeah.
running out of time. Just let me bring Cordelia in for a moment. Cordelia, do you have any questions for this fascinating subject before we end up, or otherwise I'll let everybody just have a closing, perspective. Cordelia, anything?
Yes, my final question would be, what would you suggest to new pilots coming in? What would you suggest that they look out for, that they try to keep in mind, trying to become a new pilot and trying to just start out in this industry?
Mike?
I would say pick the right airline. Of course, if you don't care, then go wherever you want to go. But if you do care, then find out what the vax requirements are and position yourself to go into the right airline.
Yeah. And that's funny you said that, Mike, because the big joke is you never know if you pick the right airline until the day you retire.
Yeah.
All right, closing thoughts. Mike, any closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, this whole vaccine thing's been, like you said, it's become a legend for a lot of folks, and the doctors are put on pedestals, and God forbid you question their judgment, or else you'll be like me, and then you're not allowed in the office anymore because you refuse to take his advice of getting a COVID shot or a flu shot. And um, it's just been tough times. A lot of people have shown their true colors.
Yeah.
I just wish that there was some sort of accountability out there, and I don't know if there's ever going to be.
Thank you so much, Mike, for being here. And Kevin, closing thoughts.
Well, you got to realize that the weapon that the pharmaceutical industry always uses is fear. They will try to scare you into thinking that this new bioweapon or whatever it is, if you come in contact with it, you'll die. And if you don't get this shot, you'll die. You see how that works?
Mhm.
It's all fear factor. So people have to learn how to get over the fear. You have to learn how your immune system works. You've got built-in protection against anything that an evil scientist could ever think of. Your body can defend any foreign protein that could exist in the entire universe. I'm not kidding you.
I agree, 100%.
We have that God-given ability. You were born with it. You've got the golden ticket, man. Don't throw it away by injecting something into your body that's going to ruin that. Don't do it.
All right, usfreedomflyers.org. And what is your Substack, Kevin? What's your Substack?
It's called drkevinstillwagon.substack.com.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. There it is, for being here. Appreciate you guys. We're going to sign off. You guys can stay on for a minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.